In beautiful English, Rose and a ferociously ambitious man from the East were entangled in a whirlwind affair that seemed to be taken directly from a novel. Beneath the glitter, however, was a tale of profound personal sacrifice, cultural conflict, and metamorphosis. This is a British aristocrat's narrative, who fell for a playboy who was Muslim. Innumerable doubts were raised by Jemima Goldsmith's choice to move to Pakistan, convert to Islam, and wed the charismatic Pakistani cricketer Imran Khan. Was it a youthful leap of faith, responsibility, or love? Did she eventually find joy from this cross-cultural love tale, or did it cost her something that would impact her life forever? We'll respond to this today. And now, 28 years later, look at their family. Let's go back to the beginning. The initial encounter and prompt interaction. Jemima Goldsmith initially met Imran Khan on a cold April evening in London in 1995. Born into British royalty, Jemima was a 21-year-old heiress who epitomized subtle grace. Her laughing was bright and fast, and her honey blonde hair fell over her shoulders. The aura of the Goldsmith family was with her: influence, tradition, and old money. In Pakistan, however, Imran Khan was a living legend, a charismatic individual with an Oxford education, a former cricket captain who had guided his country to World Cup triumph in 1992, and someone who spoke both the rhythm of the streets and the language of the elite. His reputation as a ladies' man was nearly as legendary as his achievements in cricket. His mystique in London society also included rumors about his liaisons with debutantes and nobles. However, beneath the playboy persona was a complex individual who was determined, ambitious, and more captivated by the idea of changing Pakistan's political and social climate. This tragic meeting was destined to become a landmark occasion. There was a clear spark that erupted when their eyes met. Imran, who was 42 at the time, was enthralled by Jemima's intelligence, her wit that glistened like precious crystal, and her candor, which was refreshing in the frequently constricting world of high society. Imran, a man who spoke of faith, generosity, and justice in a way that sounded both traditional and radical, captivated Jemima with his earnestness. With typical audacity, Khan proposed marriage on their second date. It appeared impetuous, perhaps irresponsible, to many. Right. Jemima had only been a teenager 2 years before, so this man was more than twice her age and had a history of hopping from one glitzy affair to another. For Imran, however, this was no passing fancy. He was at a stage in his life where he needed a partner who would support him as he went from being a cricket hero to a political firebrand. In addition to her beauty, he perceived in Jemima a quiet strength, a sense of morality, and possibly a link to the society he wished to change. In London, the tabloids went into overdrive for Jemima. It was unclear from the headlines if this was a fortuitous union or a true love match. Some even cast doubt on Jemima's intentions, portraying her as a simple-minded young lady who was seduced by a foreigner with a silver tongue. The news was greeted in Pakistan with a mix of awe, mistrust, and downright contempt. It was a fairy tale romance for Khan's admirers, demonstrating his worldwide appeal. Critics saw it as an affront to traditional values. The conflicts also affected their family. In his skeptical assessment of the match, Sir James Goldsmith joked that Khan may be a suitable first husband for his daughter, Lady Annabel Goldsmith. Although she may have quietly questioned if her daughter, who was just out of adolescence, was prepared to handle the political and cultural challenges of life in Pakistan, Jemima's mother appeared to be more encouraging. There was also uneasiness on Khan's side. His sisters had concerns about Jemima's eligibility because they were guardians of tradition and family honor. However, in the intense flurry of those initial weeks, such worries appeared far off. Early difficulties in marriage. The May 1995 wedding of Imran Khan and Jemima Goldsmith reflected the rich customs of Pakistan as well as the opulence of aristocratic circles. The main celebration took place at the opulent Ritz Hotel in Paris and was a private traditional nikah ceremony. Only close family members and a few chosen acquaintances attended the private nikah. Khan, dressed simply in a white shalwar kameez, emanated serene authority, while Jemima, dressed in a lavishly embroidered white and gold gown with her head modestly covered, looked every inch the traditional bride. Jemima breached a boundary that few women from her upbringing would ever transcend when she quietly repeated the Arabic terms of the marriage contract after the attending imam solemnly pronounced the Quranic verses. This was a proactive step for Jemima to embrace her new existence. As a tribute to her integrity and the road she was about to take, Imran had given her the name Hakka, which has roots in classical Arabic and means truthful. After the religious service, British celebrities and aristocracy attended a civil ceremony in Richmond, which was followed by a lavish midsummer party at the Goldsmith family seat, Ormley Lodge. Princess Diana, a personal friend of Jemima, graced the ball, a glittering event under the English sun, and provided encouragement during what must have been a trying moment. Diana, who was more aware than most of the demands of marrying into a prominent family under constant public scrutiny, told Jemima that she needed to find her voice in the midst of the storm and never let it overwhelm her. It was suggested that Jemima will return frequently in the ensuing years. Jemima packed her life into suitcases and relocated to Lahore after the festivities were over and the last of the champagne glasses had been cleaned. The city welcomed her with a heady blend of the frantic bustle of street sellers and rickshaws, as well as evenings fragrant with jasmine. It stood in sharp contrast to the orderly pace of London life and the subdued elegance of the Goldsmith estates. She started learning Urdu, first finding it difficult to understand due to its strange writing and syntax, but she was determined to converse without the use of interpreters. She switched from wearing elegant Western gowns to shalwar kameezes made of rich silks and soft cottons, embracing the traditional Pakistani wardrobe. Her new home was the expansive house in Zaman Park, where Khan's extended family shared a single roof, an arrangement that is ingrained in Pakistani culture, but unfamiliar to Jemima's childhood. The Khan's way of life was a crash school in conservative principles. Tradition was guarded by Imran's sisters, especially Al-Yima and Yuzma. Furthermore, Jemima frequently had to manage a complex web of duties, including cooking for the family, managing domestic help, and upholding the anticipated modesty of a politician's wife. Politics, religion, and Pakistan's future were frequently discussed topics around the dinner table. Even though Jemima made an effort to intelligently participate, her Western education and British accent occasionally felt like imperceptible obstacles. She missed the comfort of English tea, her friends' soft sarcasm, and the ability to express her opinions without worrying about criticism at quiet times. Jemima's metamorphosis went beyond appearances. She devoted herself in studying the Quran and Islamic history after making the very personal decision to convert to Islam, occasionally attending lectures at the Badshahi Mosque in Lahore. But in spite of her attempts, she was seen as an alien by Pakistan's orthodox circles, a Western lady dressing up in a country she would never fully comprehend. In the meantime, dramatic headlines were published by British tabloids. They mocked the heiress who became a housewife, portraying Jemima as a stranded aristocrat in a golden cage. Khan also had some strain during the adjustment. His aspirations to become a politician were intensifying. He was establishing the groundwork for his political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or TIE, which sought to overthrow the established political establishment. In Western media, Jemima took on the role of an unofficial spokesman, promoting Khan's political beliefs and Pakistan's reputation overseas. However, their closeness was put to the test by the pressures of family, the weight of public life, and the scrutiny of their relationship. Jemima persisted, though. "I'm more than just a wife here," she once told a friend. "My goal is to be a part of something greater." And for a while she was able to persevere through the difficulties that came with becoming Hakka Khan because of her love for Imran and her sense of purpose. Naturally, they were extremely happy when Suleiman Isa Khan, their first son, was born in November 1996. Reflecting the spiritual convergence she witnessed in her life, Isa honored the Quranic name for Jesus. Imran, who has always had a strong sense of destiny, held a large rally at Minari, Pakistan in Lahore to formally launch his political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or TIE. Tens of thousands of people attended the ceremony, and as their cries of Naya Pakistan or New Pakistan echoed into the night, Imran stood up against the monument and proclaimed his intention to combat corruption and restore the moral foundation of the nation. Sitting in the front row in a plain white shalwar camis, Jemima clapped along, but there was a hint of doubt in her smile. "I felt like a spectator in a play where I couldn't understand all the lines," she later said to a friend. Imran's obsession with politics caused Jemima to become more and more alone while he traveled all around Pakistan for strategy meetings, fundraising events, and rallies. Once a sanctuary, Zaman Park grew colder, and talks with Imran became tense and infrequent. She would later write a private letter to her mother, Lady Annabel Goldsmith, saying, "It's as if he's married to the cause now." Jemima made an effort, but her involvement in Pakistani politics was sometimes met with skepticism. Her support of causes that were near and dear to her heart, like women's health and children's reading, occasionally backfired. While some columnists commended her for her sympathy, others accused her of political showmanship when she showed up at a rally for flood victims in Sindh wearing a plain dupatta and little makeup. Mrs. Khan should keep in mind that she is not a princess in her own country, according to a harsh editorial published in Nawa-e-Waqt. Pakistan's own daughters are worthy of the limelight. She was silently judged even in polite circles. Politicians' wives would smile politely at formal dinners, but they would murmur that she was too brash, too opinionated, and too Western. Small rebellious acts of Jemima's tenacity throughout it all included insisting on speaking Urdu at home, going with Imran to campaign rallies in rural regions in spite of the heat and dust, and continuing to write pieces for The Guardian that helped a cynical Western audience understand Pakistan. She once wrote an essay called A Country of Contradictions, in which she detailed her efforts to make amends, marital stress, and escalating disputes. By the late 1990s, the flaws in Jemima Goldsmith and Imran Khan's marriage were becoming painfully apparent to everyone in the country, not just those who knew them. The public's attention became more perceptive and intrusive as Imran's political aspirations grew. A scandal broke out in 1999 when Jemima was accused of being a secret agent of a Zionist conspiracy by a group of right-wing columnists and political commentators, particularly those connected to religious and nationalist groups. Despite their obvious absurdity, the accusations acquired traction in Pakistan's volatile political environment. In mosques in Lahore, fervent clerics demanded that her Pakistani citizenship be taken away. After secretly obtaining her Pakistani citizenship in 1998, Jemima was abruptly painted as an intruder. It was a horrible irony. This woman was labeled a traitor despite having left her world behind. Dressed in a shalwar kameez, brought up her children in the Islamic faith, and actively supported Pakistan's causes. To make matters worse, Jemima got involved in another controversy. That would put her marriage to the test. She was charged with trying to smuggle centuries-old antique tiles from Lahore to London in the winter of 1999, which would have violated Pakistan's stringent cultural heritage rules if confirmed. Despite their weakness, the accusations caused a media frenzy. At the Allama Iqbal International Airport in Lahore, customs officers reported intercepting crates that had relics of historical significance. The harm was done, despite Jemima's insistence that the tiles were lawfully acquired ornamental items intended for her London residence. The incident was pounced upon by politicians from opposing parties who were keen to damage Imran's reputation and presented it as an instance of elite impunity. She was presented as a reckless foreigner by the media who had already been influenced by the previous Shianist accusations, who disregarded Pakistan's cultural legacy. Exhausted by the attacks, Jemima temporarily left for London with her kids in order to escape the oppressive atmosphere. In a rare interview at the time, she acknowledged that he found it difficult to handle the aftermath because he was torn between protecting his wife and achieving his political goals. His political life was tumultuous because to internal conflicts and external influences, and his party, TIE, was still struggling to gain traction. Supporters would yell Naya Pakistan slogans during public gatherings. However, there were also rumors that though Jemima wasn't loyal, the conflict between private and public life became intolerable. Jemima's mental state started to deteriorate. She talked of having insomnia, feeling like she was being followed everywhere, and feeling lonely while Imran was gone for days at a time. Once they had engaged in light banter, the pressure started to appear in their interactions. which now included silences and fights about politics, culture, and raising the kids. Jemima later reflected, "I married a man who belonged to the people, but in the end, I couldn't compete with the country." By the end of 1999, the relentless scrutiny, legal challenges, and growing emotional distance had carved a deep fracture into their marriage. Jemima, who had once hoped to make a home in Pakistan, began to question whether the sacrifices she had made, her identity, her comfort, her sense of belonging, had been in vain. Of course, Imran was not immune to such politically motivated attacks either. While Jemima Goldsmith bore the brunt of xenophobic accusations, Imran Khan too was not spared. Perhaps the most notorious among these was the Sita White case, a scandal that followed him like a shadow throughout the late 1990s and into the early 2000s. The allegation that he had fathered a child, Tyrion White, out of wedlock with British heiress Sita White was repeatedly weaponized by his critics, especially in moments when he seemed poised to gain political ground. While paternity was never legally contested in Pakistan and had no direct bearing on his political platform, the controversy was routinely dredged up in public discourse, not just to question his morality, but to undermine his political authenticity. Both Imran and Jemima were treated as proxies in a much larger battlefield, where politics devoured privacy and distorted facts to suit whatever narrative was most convenient. These attacks weren't just slanders. They were calculated efforts to destabilize a political movement, rattle a marriage, and delegitimize a family trying to exist in two cultural realities at once. And both Jemima and Imran had to walk that tightrope. Their reputations constantly subjected to the shifting winds of media bias, political rivalry, and public misunderstanding. Impact on children and family dynamics. By the early 2000s, Jemima and Imran's family life had become a complex web of public fascination and private strain. With their two sons, Suleiman Isa Khan, born in November 1996, and Qasim Khan, born in April 1999, caught in the eye of the storm. These boys, who should have been simply children enjoying the carefree joys of youth, instead found themselves symbolically tethered to the tug-of-war between two vastly different worlds. The elite drawing rooms of London's Notting Hill, where their maternal relatives spoke in clipped British accents and discussed art, politics, and culture over tea, and the sprawling lawns of Zaman Park in Lahore, where their father's supporters gathered for impassioned political rallies, hafalies, under banners proclaiming the dream of Naya Pakistan. Jemima tried to shield her sons from the relentless glare of the media, but in a culture where family is inseparable from a public figure's identity, that proved impossible. During Eid celebrations in Lahore, photographers would capture the boys in traditional kurta pajamas, prompting commentary on whether they were being raised as proper Pakistani Muslims or simply playing dress-up for the cameras. At the same time, images of them attending events in London alongside their mother wearing smart blazers and jeans fed into the British media's fascination with their hybrid existence. Jemima, in a rare moment of vulnerability, once wrote in her private journal, "I want the boys to feel at home in both worlds, but some days it feels like they belong to neither." Imran's deepening political ambitions only added to the complexity. As Thai gained momentum in the early 2000s, the household atmosphere grew increasingly politicized. Jemima, meanwhile, found herself becoming more of a single parent in practice, managing the boys' schooling, health, and emotional well-being, while Imran was absorbed in the political trenches. The tension between public duty and private life strained the family dynamic. Suleiman, especially, began to sense the weight of expectations. In a school essay written at the Lyceum in Lahore, he once described his father as hero for the country, but a stranger at home. Moreover, the cultural contradictions in their upbringing became more pronounced. While Jemima tried to instill a sense of British manners and intellectual curiosity, ensuring her boys read books beyond the usual school curriculum, such as Shakespeare, Kipling, and even Urdu poetry. There were moments when the disconnect between their two worlds was impossible to bridge. At family dinners in Lahore, relatives would remind the boys to recite their Quranic verses properly. While in London, Jemima's aristocratic friends would encourage them to engage in debate over classical philosophy and environmental activism. Now, Jemima worried constantly about their sense of belonging. Writing in a letter to her mother, Lady Annabel Goldsmith, "They are growing up in a world where they are both too Pakistani and too British. And some days I don't know how to guide them. I'd guide them." The situation reached a critical point when Jemima began receiving threats from political opponents, including veiled warnings that her children's safety could be at risk if Imran continued to challenge the establishment. It was a terrifying reality that forced her to reconsider whether she and the boys could continue living in Pakistan. The family's once hopeful narrative of bridging cultures had soured into a cautionary tale about the price of idealism, and Jemima, despite her best efforts, began to realize that raising her children in such a turbulent environment was an impossible burden. By the time Suleiman and Qasim were old enough to understand the controversies swirling around their family, the cracks in the marriage and the strains on the children's well-being had become too deep to ignore. Money. For Jemima, the choice between staying in a world where her sons were pawns in a larger political game and returning to the familiarity of her own cultural roots was no longer just about her marriage. It was about their survival. The couple officially divorced in June 2004 after 9 years of marriage. The couple separated amicably and both cited difficulty in adapting to the political life in Pakistan as the key reason. Despite the end of their marriage, they remained on good terms, with Jemima continuing to publicly support Imran Khan's political career achievements and contributions. Far beyond the socialite image that once followed her, Jemima has meticulously crafted a legacy rooted in cultural bridge building and fearless exploration of difficult subjects. Her journey into the world of film and television began in earnest with the founding of Instinct Productions in 2015. A company that quickly earned a reputation for producing hard-hitting documentaries and compelling narrative films with a focus on social justice and political transparency. Among her notable achievements, Jemima's work on the Clinton affair stands out not only for its journalistic rigor, but for the nuanced way it revisited a scandal that had long been oversimplified by mainstream media. The 4-part documentary series, aired on AAA, earned Jemima an Emmy nomination in 2018. This success was soon followed by her involvement in the gripping and heartbreaking Sky Atlantic and HBO documentary on Adnan Syed, whose case had captivated audiences worldwide following the popularity of Serial, the groundbreaking podcast. The documentary's exploration of justice and memory was hailed for its balanced perspective, earning Jemima another Emmy. Her work extended beyond documentaries with her role as a producer on the Golden Globe and Emmy-nominated series Impeachment, American Crime Story in 2021. Showcased Jemima's ability to blend dramatic storytelling with historical accuracy, highlighting her versatile talent in both factual and scripted content. Yet it was with What's Love Got to Do With It, a romantic comedy released in 2022, that Jemima demonstrated her range by producing a film that was both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. While entered, the movie's sharp yet heartfelt script, along with its refreshing take on cultural identity and romance, won the Best Comedy Award at the Rome Film Festival in 2022 and went on to sweep 4 awards at the 2023 National Film Awards. Jemima's dedication to highlighting social issues is further evident in her production of As Far as They Run, a poignant documentary short that received an Emmy nomination for its sensitive portrayal of children with intellectual disabilities living in rural Pakistan. Jemima also ventured into the burgeoning world of podcasting with A Muslim and a Jew, Go There, a series launched in the late 2010s that quickly gained critical acclaim. The podcast's premise: 2 friends from different faith backgrounds engaging in candid, respectful, and often deeply personal conversations about religion, politics, and identity, resonated with audiences craving nuanced dialogue in an increasingly polarized world. The British Podcast Awards recognized the show with a nomination in the News and Current Affairs category, a testament to its impact and relevance. Continuing this momentum, the podcast's 2024 season received praise for maintaining civility and thought-provoking content, marking it as a rare example of earnest, intelligent discourse in the digital media landscape. Jemima Khan has also forayed into journalism and editorial work. During her years living in Pakistan and navigating the often complex intersections of culture, politics, and identity, she became a prominent voice in major UK publications, lending her nuanced perspective to the Sunday Times, The Observer, and The Independent. One of the defining moments in Jemima's journalism career came in 2008, when she secured an exclusive interview with then-President Pervez Musharraf. She challenged Musharraf directly on issues such as governance, terrorism, and civil rights, drawing out candid responses that shed light on the complexities of his regime. Between 2007 and 2008, Jemima served as a columnist for the Sunday Telegraph, where her voice carried significant weight in shaping public discourse on Pakistan and South Asia. Her columns during this time often explored the geopolitical shifts post 9/11, the rise of extremism, and the ongoing struggle for women's rights in Pakistan. In 2008, she expanded her editorial scope by joining British Vogue as a contributing editor, a role she held until 2011. There, Jemima's influence transcended politics into the realm of culture and fashion, where she used the platform to advocate for causes such as women's empowerment, education, budgeting, and humanitarian aid. Her editorial career reached a new height in 2011 when she became the European editor-at-large for Vanity Fair. This prestigious role allowed Jemima to contribute in-depth profiles, investigative pieces, and cultural commentary to one of the most influential magazines worldwide. Perhaps one of the most telling endorsements of Jemima's editorial prowess came from Nick Cohen, a respected British journalist and commentator who praised her tenure at the New Statesman Journal, where she also held an editorial role. Called her the Observer's best editor during that period, highlighting her editorial vision and ability to nurture impactful journalism. But that's not all. Jemima Khan's commitment to philanthropy and activism has been a defining aspect of her life. Back in 1998, when she was still married to Imran Khan, driven by a desire to create tangible opportunities for Pakistani women, she launched a unique fashion house that married the rich traditions of Eastern embroidery with contemporary Western design aesthetics. Jemima's goal was to employ impoverished women from Lahore's underprivileged neighborhoods, providing them with a steady income and a platform to showcase their exquisite craftsmanship to an international audience. The enterprise, based in a modest workshop in Gulberg, became a symbol of cross-cultural collaboration and social enterprise, with every garment carefully handcrafted to preserve centuries-old techniques. Importantly, proceeds from the fashion house were directed to support the Shakat Kunam Memorial Cancer Hospital in Lahore, a pioneering institution founded by her then-husband Imran Khan. This hospital was Pakistan's first comprehensive cancer treatment facility, offering free care to thousands of patients, and Jemima's initiative helped sustain its vital work. However, the peaceful momentum of this project was abruptly disrupted. Geopolitical tensions escalated and Pakistan faced widespread instability. The ensuing turmoil made it increasingly difficult to maintain the fashion house's operations, forcing its closure. But Jemima's early efforts left a lasting legacy in social entrepreneurship in Pakistan. Beyond this early venture, Jemima continued to leverage her visibility and creativity for charitable causes. In 2009, she modeled for the prestigious Hazaro Cutter and was invited to co-design their spring collection. The proceeds from the collection were donated to UNICEF. During her marriage to Imran Khan, she also co-founded a refugee camp dedicated to Afghan refugees fleeing decades of conflict and instability.